The apartment was silent except for the sound of ragged breathing. Naruto Uzumaki lay sprawled across his unmade bed, still wearing his dirt-stained orange jumpsuit from the mission to Wave Country. He hadn't bothered to change, hadn't bothered to shower, hadn't bothered to do anything except stumble home and collapse. The moonlight streaming through his window painted silver streaks across his face, illuminating the tracks of dried tears that stained his whiskered cheeks. His body ached. Everything ached. The bruises from Haku's Senbon needles had faded thanks to Kurama's healing, but phantom pains still lanced through him, reminding him of how close he'd come to death, how close they'd all come. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the weight pressing down on his chest, the suffocating feeling of inadequacy that had haunted him since they'd crossed back into Fire Country. Useless. The word echoed in his mind like a funeral bell. He'd been useless against Haku. Useless against Zabuza. Hell, he'd been useless against those two Chunin pretending to be Jonin before they'd even left Konoha. Every time it mattered, every time his team needed him, he fell short. Sasuke had awakened his Sharingan. Sasuke, who already had everything, talent, skill, the acknowledgement of everyone in the village. Naruto had watched those tomos spin to life in his teammates' eyes and felt something ugly twist in his gut. Not quite jealousy, but close. Inadequacy mixed with desperation mixed with a burning, aching need to matter. And Sakura. Sakura had stood over them both, kunai in hand, protecting them for hours while he'd been unconscious. Sakura, who he'd sworn to protect, who he'd promised to bring Sasuke back to, had been the one doing the protecting while he lay there like dead weight. The memory of Haku's soft voice drifted through his mind. When people are protecting something truly precious to them, they truly can become as strong as they must be. Then why wasn't I strong enough? Naruto whispered into the darkness, his voice cracking. Why am I never strong enough? He tried so hard. Pushed himself beyond his limits, thrown himself into danger without hesitation, relied on the strange red chakra that sometimes came when he was desperate enough. But it wasn't his strength. It was the fox's strength, and he didn't understand it, couldn't control it, could barely access it unless he was literally dying, and everyone knew it. He could see it in Kakashi's eye when he looked at him, not disappointment exactly, but a kind of calculated assessment, like he was a weapon of unpredictable yield. He could see it in Sasuke's smirk, the one that said you'll never catch up. He could see it in how the village looked at him, like he was a monster wearing a boy's skin, dangerous and uncontrollable, and other. Fresh tears leaked from the corners of his eyes. Naruto didn't bother wiping them away. There was no one here to see, no one to maintain his mask for. Just him and the darkness, and the crushing weight of his own worthlessness. I'm sorry, Iruka-sensei, he breathed. I'm sorry I'm not stronger. I'm sorry I keep letting everyone down. He thought of Inari, the boy in Wave who had lost his father, who had given up on heroes. Naruto had yelled at him, told him that heroes were real, that people who never gave up could change the world. He believed it when he said it, believed it with every fiber of his being. But lying here in the dark, broken and aching and so tired of being weak, he wondered if he'd been lying to himself most of all. No. The thought came fierce and sudden, cutting through the despair like a knife. No, I promised. I promised Iruka-sensei. I promised Old Man Hokage. I promised myself. He would become Hokage. He would make everyone acknowledge him. He would protect his precious people. But how? How could he possibly? The world shifted. It wasn't a physical sensation exactly, more like reality hiccuped, like the universe took a breath and held it. The moonlight streaming through his window seemed to thicken, to become viscous like honey. The sounds of the village outside, the distant murmur of late-night conversations, the whisper of wind through leaves, all of it faded to absolute silence. And then Naruto felt the pull. It was like being yanked backward through water, through mud, through the very fabric of space itself. Naruto's eyes flew open. When had he closed them? But he wasn't in his apartment anymore. He was falling. No, not falling. Sinking. Descending through layers of something that wasn't quite water but pressed against him with the same resistance. The darkness around him was absolute, the kind of black that existed before light was ever conceived. It pressed against his eyes, his skin, his mind, suffocating and vast and ancient. Naruto opened his mouth to scream and found he had no breath. Panic clawed at his chest. He tried to swim, to fight against the descent, but his limbs moved sluggishly, uselessly. Down and down and down he went, into depths that seemed to have no bottom. Just when he thought he might lose consciousness, might drown in this void, his feet touched something solid. The darkness rippled, receded, and Naruto found himself standing in a place he'd only been once before, during the Forest of Death when Orochimaru's seal had tried to suppress the Kyuubi's chakra. A sewer. Massive pipes lined the walls, dripping with condensation that echoed in the vast space. The floor beneath his feet was covered in a thin layer of water that reflected a dim, sourceless light. The air smelled of dampness and something else, something primal and wild that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. And ahead of him, barely visible in the gloom, was the cage. It was enormous, stretching up into darkness, its bars as thick as tree trunks and covered in paper seals that glowed with a faint blue light. The kanji written on them seemed to writhe and shift when Naruto looked directly at them, making his eyes water. What the hell? Naruto's voice came out as a whisper, swallowed almost immediately by the vast space. He took a tentative step forward, then another. The water rippled around his feet, disturbed for the first time in who knew how long. As he approached the cage, he became aware of breathing. Not his own, his breath was short and quick with fear, but something deeper. Slower. Each inhalation sounded like wine through a canyon, each exhalation like a dragon's sigh. Hello? Naruto called out, trying to inject some confidence into his voice and failing miserably. Is someone there? The breathing stopped. Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. 4. 5. Then, from the darkness behind the bars, 2 eyes opened. They were enormous, each one easily as large as Naruto's entire body, and they burned with a malevolent crimson light that seemed to set the very air on fire. Vertical slits bisected each eye like a cat's, but there was nothing domestic about this gaze. This was the look of an apex predator, a force of nature given form and consciousness and hate. Naruto stumbled backward, his heel catching on something, and he fell hard on his backside into the shallow water. He scrambled back on his hands and feet, unable to tear his eyes away from that terrible gaze. Laughter rolled out from the cage, deep and rumbling like an earthquake-given voice. It echoed off the pipes, multiplying until it seemed to come from everywhere at once, pressing down on Naruto like a physical weight. Finally, a voice like grinding stone and burning forest spoke. The whelp comes crawling into my domain consciously. How unexpected. Something massive shifted in the darkness. The eyes moved forward, descending, and as they came closer to the bars, more of the creature became visible. Orange fur that seemed to burn with its own inner light, claws the size of swords, teeth like kunai and a mouth large enough to swallow a house, the 9-tailed fox, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The demon that had nearly destroyed Konoha 13 years ago. You, Naruto breathed, finding his voice even as fear threatened to choke it off. You're the fox. The 9 tails. How astute. The words dripped with sarcasm thick as blood. And here I thought you were merely a fool. Tell me, boy, do you know where you are? Do you understand what you're looking at? Naruto's mind raced. He'd known, intellectually, that the Kyuubi was sealed inside him. The villagers made sure he never forgot it with their glares and their whispers and their hate. But knowing and understanding were 2 different things. This wasn't just some chakra source. This was a living being, intelligent and ancient and terrifying. The seal, Naruto said slowly, pushing himself to his feet on shaking legs. This is inside me. You're inside me. How very clever. Your father would be so proud. The last word was laced with such venom that Naruto actually flinched. Yes, boy. I am your prisoner, locked away in this pathetic cage by the 4th Hokage's final act. Your father's final act. Naruto's eyes widened. My father? What do you? Silence. The fox's roar shook the entire mindscape. Water splashed against the walls. The seals on the cage flared bright blue. I did not bring you here to discuss the dead. You brought me here? Naruto's fear was slowly being overtaken by confusion. Why? What do you want? The massive eyes narrowed, studying him with an intensity that made Naruto feel like he was being dissected, Every weakness and flaw laid bare. I have watched you, boy, the fox said, its voice dropping to something almost conversational, though no less menacing. Watched you from the moment you drew your first breath. Felt every emotion, every pain, every pathetic attempt at gaining strength. Do you know what I have seen? Naruto said nothing, his throat too tight to speak. Weakness, the fox continued. Incompetence. A mewling child playing at being a shinobi, wielding my chakra like a blunt instrument when he's desperate enough, then crawling back to his miserable existence none the wiser. You are, without question, the most pathetic vessel I have ever been cursed to inhabit. Each word was like a physical blow. Naruto felt his hands clenching into fists, felt the familiar burn of shame and anger rising in his chest. And yet, the fox said, and something in its tone made Naruto look up sharply, you refuse to quit. The nine-tails shifted, lowering its massive head until it was level with the bars of the cage. Naruto could see himself reflected in those enormous eyes, tiny and insignificant, and yet the fox's gaze held something he couldn't quite identify. Something that wasn't entirely contempt. In 10,000 years of existence, the fox said slowly, I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen legends born and die. I have been sealed twice, wielded as a weapon, treated as a mindless beast to be controlled. And in all that time, do you know what I have learned about humans? Naruto shook his head mutely. They break, the fox said simply. Everyone breaks eventually. Give them enough pain, enough fear, enough loss, and they shatter. The strong take longer, the weak crumble immediately, but in the end, all humans break. The fox's eyes seemed to bore into Naruto's soul. Except you. Naruto blinked, confusion overriding his fear for a moment. What? I have tried to break you, boy, the fox said, and there was something almost like respect in its voice now. My chakra burns through your coils. The villagers hate you. Your teammates mock you. You have no family, no legacy, no inherent talent. By all rights, you should have given up years ago. Become bitter. Become hateful. Become like me. The fox pulled back slightly, its expression unreadable. But you don't. You smile. You laugh. You make your ridiculous promises about becoming Hokage and protecting your precious people. You cry yourself to sleep at night. Oh yes, I feel that too. And then wake up the next morning and try again. It is, the fox seemed to struggle with the word, admirable. In a pathetic, human sort of way. Naruto didn't know what to say. In all his imaginings of what the Nine-Tails might be like, he'd never expected this strange, grudging acknowledgement. I brought you here, the fox continued, because I have made a decision. One I never thought I would make, one that may well prove to be the greatest mistake of my long existence. The massive head tilted slightly, considering. I am going to give you a chance, Naruto Uzumaki. A chance to become strong. Truly, genuinely strong. Strong enough to protect those precious people you won't shut up about. Strong enough to change this pathetic world. Strong enough, perhaps, to even challenge the gods themselves. Naruto's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it echoing in the vast space. What kind of chance? Time, the fox said simply. Time is the one resource humans never have enough of. Your human lifespans are so brief, mere candles in the infinite dark. You train for years to master techniques that should take decades. You die before you truly understand the depth of what you've learned. One massive claw extended, tapping against the bars of the cage with a sound like a bell tolling. But this place, the fox continued, exists outside normal reality. We are in your mindscape, boy, the space where your consciousness and mine intersect. And in this space, I can manipulate the flow of time itself. Naruto's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. I can create a space within this seal, the fox explained, where time flows differently than the outside world. Much, much differently. You could spend years here, decades, centuries, millennia, while mere moments pass in the physical world. That's... Naruto struggled to comprehend the implications. That's impossible. I am a being of primordial chakra, boy. I existed before your villages, before your ninja, before humans learned to weaponize the energy that flows through all things. Impossible is a word humans use for things they don't understand. The fox's eyes gleamed in the darkness. Here is my offer. I will create a training ground within this seal. A place where you can learn, grow, and master abilities beyond your wildest imaginings. I will teach you myself, share knowledge accumulated over 10,000 years of existence. You will train for 10,000 years within this seal. Naruto's mind reeled. 10,000 years. It was an incomprehensible span of time. And when you emerge, the fox continued, only 1 week will have passed in the outside world. Why? The question burst from Naruto's lips. Why would you do this? You hate me. You hate humans. Why help me? The fox was silent for a long moment, and when it spoke again, its voice was softer, almost contemplative. Do you know what it's like, boy, to be immortal? To watch ages pass, to see everything you might have cared about turn to dust, to be treated as a weapon, a monster, a thing to be controlled rather than a being to be respected? The massive eyes closed briefly, then reopened. I am tired. Tired of hatred. Tired of being sealed. Tired of watching pathetic humans wield fractions of my power without understanding. For once, I want to see what happens when a human is given truly unlimited time to grow. No artificial limits. No shortened lifespan. No excuses. The fox's muzzle pulled back in what might have been a smile, though it showed far too many teeth to be comforting. And perhaps it added, I am curious to see if you really are as unbreakable as you seem. 10,000 years is a long time, boy. Long enough to master every technique ever created. Long enough to forge new paths of power. Long enough to achieve enlightenment. The smile grew wider, more menacing. Long enough to go completely, utterly insane. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. 10,000 years. Alone. In this dark, damp sewerscape with only a demon fox for company. The loneliness he felt now, the isolation, would be nothing compared to that kind of temporal exile. And yet, he thought of Haku's needles piercing his body. Of Sasuke standing over him, Sharingan blazing. Of Sakura's terrified face as she stood guard. Of every time he'd failed, every time he'd been too weak, too slow, too useless to make a difference. 10,000 years of training. 10,000 years to become strong enough that no one he cared about would ever have to protect him again. Strong enough to protect them all. What's the catch? Naruto asked, his voice steadier than he felt. There's always a catch. The fox actually laughed, a sound of genuine amusement. Smart boy. Yes, there are conditions. 3 of them, to be precise. One massive claw extended, and the fox began ticking off points. First, you must survive. The training I will put you through will be brutal beyond anything you can imagine. I can manipulate this mindscape to create scenarios, opponents, challenges designed to push you beyond your breaking point. You will die. Many times. I can revive you here. This is a mental space, after all, and death is merely a construct. But each death will feel real. The pain will be real. The trauma will be real. If your mind shatters, if you lose yourself to the madness of endless death and rebirth, you will be lost forever. Naruto swallowed hard but nodded for the fox to continue. Second, you must learn to work with me, not just use my power. I am not your tool, boy. I am not a battery for you to drain when convenient. If we do this, we do it as partners. The words seemed to physically pain the fox to say. You will learn about me, my history, my nature. You will understand what I am, why I am, and how to truly wield the power of a tailed beast. No more sloppy, desperate grabs at my chakra. True mastery. That actually sounded reasonable? Better than reasonable, even. Naruto had always wondered about the fox, always felt there was more to it than just mindless hatred. Third, and here the fox's voice grew deadly serious, when you return to the outside world, you must be smart about it. 10,000 years of experience compressed into a 13-year-old body will make you powerful beyond measure, but it will also make you a target. You will need to hide your true strength, pretend to be the same fool everyone expects. At least until you understand the true threats facing this world. True threats? Naruto asked. You mean there's more than just normal ninja stuff? The fox's eyes gleamed with dark knowledge. Oh boy. The threats you've faced so far are nothing. Children playing at war. There are forces moving in this world that make even me wary. Old evil stirring. Ancient powers awakening. If you reveal yourself too soon, You'll paint a target on your back that will attract attention you are not ready for, even with 10,000 years of training. Naruto absorbed this, his mind racing through the implications. 3 conditions. Survive the training. Work with the fox. Hide his strength after. Could he do it? Could he endure 10,000 years of isolation and death and training just for the chance to protect his friends? He thought of Irika's smile. Of old man Hokage's trust. Of Sakura's tears. Of Sasuke's acknowledgement. Of every person in Konoha who looked at him with hatred, and his promise to make them all recognize him someday. I have questions, Naruto said finally. Of course you do. When I come back, will I still be me? It was the fear he hadn't wanted to voice, the terror that lurked beneath all the others. 10,000 years is longer than human civilization. How can I still be Naruto Uzumaki after that long? The fox regarded him silently for a moment, and when it spoke, its voice was surprisingly gentle. That, boy, is entirely up to you. Many would lose themselves in that span of time, yes. They would become something other, something detached from humanity. But identity is not about time, it's about choice. If you choose to remain Naruto Uzumaki, if you hold on to your bonds, your dreams, your precious people even in the depths of temporal isolation, then you will emerge still yourself. Perhaps wiser, perhaps harder. But still you. The fox's tail swished behind it, barely visible in the darkness. I will help you in this. I have no desire to spend 10,000 years with a stranger. As insufferable as you are at least consistently yourself. We will find ways to maintain your sense of self. Create mental constructs of your friends to interact with. Practice scenarios that remind you why you're doing this. It will not be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. Naruto nodded slowly. And when the week is up outside, what happens? Do I just wake up? Essentially. Your body will have rested for a week. You will be well fed, well recovered from your mission. No one will suspect anything is different. Except, the fox's grin widened, you will return with the knowledge and skill of a 10,000-year-old immortal compressed into a child's form. The contrast will be amusing to observe. Why a week? Naruto asked. Why not just a few hours or a day? Because the transformation will be profound, the fox explained. Your chakra network will need to adapt to the changes in your consciousness. Your body will need time to accept the muscle memory and instincts you'll develop. 1 week is the minimum safe time frame. Any less and you risk serious physical damage when you reintegrate. Naruto took a deep breath, then another. This was insane. Completely, utterly insane. 10,000 years of his life, more than his life, more than 100 lifetimes, compressed into a single week. The loneliness would be crushing. The training would be brutal. He might actually lose his mind, but if he succeeded. I'll do it, Naruto said, and his voice rang clear in the vast space. I accept your conditions. All 3 of them. The 9 tails studied him for a long moment, those enormous eyes searching for something. Doubt, perhaps. Fear. Hesitation. They found none. You understand, the fox said slowly, that there is no backing out once we begin? 10,000 years, boy. You will live every second of it. You will feel every moment of pain, every instant of loneliness, every hour of grinding, endless practice. This is not a dream you can wake from. This is reality, just reality stretched across a canvas of time so vast you cannot currently comprehend it. I understand, Naruto said firmly. I have to do this. I have to become strong enough. Not just for me, but for everyone I care about. Every person I've promised to protect. If this is what it takes, then this is what I'll do. Something shifted in the 9 tails' expression. The contempt that had colored its features since Naruto arrived faded, replaced by something that might have been respect. Very well, the fox said. Then let us begin your transformation, Naruto Uzumaki. But first, I think introductions are in order. You may call me Kurama. It is the name I was given by the sage of 6 paths, long before I was sealed, before I was feared, before I was hated. If we are to be partners for the next 10,000 years, you should at least know what to call me. Kurama, Naruto repeated, tasting the name. It felt strange on his tongue, humanizing the demon that had haunted his existence. Okay. Thank you, Kurama. The fox, Kurama, snorted. Do not thank me yet, boy. You have no idea what you've agreed to. But, the massive creature's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I will do my best to ensure you survive this with your mind intact. You may be an annoying little brat, but you're my annoying little brat now. And I protect what is mine. Kurama rose to his full height, and the mindscape began to shift around them. The sewer pipes started to fade, replaced by something else. Naruto felt the space expanding, reality bending and warping in ways that made his eyes water and his stomach lurch. The first thing you need to understand, Kurama's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, is that this place is a reflection of your psyche merged with my power. We can shape it, mold it, transform it into whatever we need it to be. A training ground. A library. A battlefield. Anything. The water beneath Naruto's feet was disappearing, replaced by solid earth. The darkness was pulling back, revealing a vast, open space that stretched to impossible horizons. Above, a sky was forming, not blue, but a deep crimson shot through with streaks of gold. For the next 10,000 years, Kurama continued, this will be your home. We will craft it into a place suitable for forging the strongest shinobi who has ever lived. Mountains erupted from the flat ground in the distance. Forests sprouted like time-lapse photography. Rivers carved themselves into existence. Naruto watched in awe as an entire world was born around him from nothing but will and chakra. We will start simply, Kurama said, his massive form now fully visible in this new landscape. The first 1,000 years will be dedicated to basics. You will learn to control your chakra with perfection. You will master every academy technique until you can perform them in your sleep. You will understand the theory behind ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu at a fundamental level. Naruto nodded, overwhelmed but determined. Then we will progress. You will learn the nature of chakra itself, not just the 5 basic natures, but their origins, their interactions, their deepest secrets. You will study Fuinjutsu from the seal that binds me, one of the most complex sealing arrays ever created. You will train your mind as rigorously as your body, because in 10,000 years, a weak mind will be your greatest enemy. The world continued to take shape. Structures were appearing now, training posts, meditation platforms, what looked like a massive library carved into the side of a mountain. And you will learn about me, Kurama said, his voice softening slightly. About the tailed beasts, about the Sage of Six Paths, about the true history of chakra and this world. Knowledge that has been lost or deliberately hidden. You will understand powers that most humans don't even know exist. Naruto felt a mixture of terror and exhilaration coursing through him. This was real. This was actually happening. But first, Kurama said, and suddenly his massive face was right in front of Naruto, so close that Naruto could see himself reflected in those enormous crimson eyes. First, you need to make a choice. This is your last chance to back out. Once we begin the temporal seal, there is no stopping. 10,000 years will pass in here while 1 week passes out there, and you will live every second of it. So I ask you one final time, Naruto Uzumaki, are you absolutely certain this is what you want? Naruto looked into those ancient eyes and saw his own reflection. A 13-year-old boy, small and weak and so very human. He thought about what he was about to become, thought about the price of power, the cost of strength, and then he thought about Haku's final words. When people are protecting something truly precious to them, they truly can become as strong as they must be. He had people precious to him. So many people. And he would become as strong as he must be to protect them all. I'm sure, Naruto said, and his voice didn't waver. Let's do this, Kurama. Let's do this together. For the first time since they'd met, Kurama smiled. Not a predatory grin, not a mocking sneer, but a genuine smile. Then welcome, Naruto Uzumaki, to your new home for the next 10,000 years. I hope you're ready for the hardest thing you've ever done. Let's begin. The world flashed white, and Naruto felt reality shift one final time. When his vision cleared, he was standing in the center of a vast training ground, the crimson sky overhead, Kurama's massive form settling nearby. And stretching before him, invisible but inexorable, were 10,000 years of grinding, brutal, transformative training. Naruto took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and smiled. All right, Kurama, he said. Teach me everything. And I promise, I won't break. We'll see, boy, Kurama rumbled, amusement coloring his tone. We'll see. And somewhere, in a small apartment in Kanahagakure, a 13-year-old boy slept peacefully in his bed, unaware that he had just made a bargain that would change the fate of the entire shinobi world. The first day of 10,000 years had begun. The first thing Naruto learned in his new reality was that time felt different when you were conscious of every second. He stood in the center of the vast training ground, crimson sky overhead, mountains rising in the distance, and felt the weight of eternity pressing down on him. It had been perhaps an hour since Kurama had activated the temporal seal, and already Naruto could feel the difference. Each moment seemed to stretch, to expand, to become more real than anything he'd experienced in the outside world. Stop standing there gawking, Kurama's voice rumbled across the landscape. The Nine-Tails had settled himself on a rocky outcropping overlooking the training grounds, his massive form radiating power even in repose. We have 10,000 years, but that doesn't mean we should waste a single second of it. Come here. Naruto walked across the ground, dirt that felt real beneath his feet despite being a construct of chakra and consciousness, until he stood before Kurama. Up close, the fox was even more imposing, each of his tails as thick as ancient trees, his claws capable of carving mountains. Sit, Kurama commanded. Naruto sat cross-legged on the ground, looking up expectantly. Before we begin any physical training, Kurama said, his crimson eyes gleaming with an intelligence that seemed to pierce through Naruto's very soul, you need to understand what you are, not what the village thinks you are. Not what you've believed yourself to be. What you actually are. I'm a Jinchuriki, Naruto said. The container for the Nine-Tails. For you. Partially correct, Kurama acknowledged. But incomplete. You are not merely a container, boy. You are the son of the fourth Hokage and the heir to the Uzumaki clan. You are the inheritor of two of the most powerful bloodlines in shinobi history. And you are, whether you know it or not, the reincarnation of Azura Otsutsuki, one of the sons of the Sage of Six Paths himself. Naruto's mouth fell open. What? That's impossible. I'm nobody. I'm just, you are nobody? Kurama's roar shook the entire mindscape. You are the child of Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash, one of the most feared shinobi to ever live. You are the child of Kushina Uzumaki, the Red Death, whose chakra chains could bind even me. You carry the blood of the Sage of Six Paths himself in your veins. And you dare call yourself nobody? The fury in Kurama's voice was like a physical force. Naruto actually fell backward, scrambling away from the sheer intensity of it. This is your first lesson, Kurama said, his voice dropping to something cold and hard. And you will learn it before we proceed with anything else. You are not weak because you lack talent. You are not struggling because you're inherently inferior. You are struggling because you have been deliberately kept ignorant of your own potential. Kurama's tails lashed behind him, carving furrows in the stone. Your father sealed me within you at the moment of your birth. The Uzumaki clan specializes in sealing techniques, and has naturally strong life force and chakra. Your mother was a perfect Jinchuriki before you. I never once broke free of her control. You should have inherited both your father's genius and your mother's innate abilities. Instead, you've been treated like a failure. Do you know why? Naruto shook his head mutely, his mind reeling from the revelations. Because my chakra interferes with yours, Kurama explained. My chakra is corrosive, overwhelming. It floods your coils constantly, making fine chakra control nearly impossible. The academy teaches control exercises designed for normal students. They were never going to work for you. You needed specialized training, the kind reserved for Jinchuriki, and you received nothing. Understanding began to dawn in Naruto's eyes, accompanied by a burning anger. The third Hokage knows, Kurama continued relentlessly. Kakashi knows. They all know that you require different instruction, and yet you've been left to flounder. Whether through neglect, political maneuvering, or simple incompetence, you have been failed by everyone who should have helped you. But why? Naruto's voice cracked. Why would they do that? Politics. Fear. Stupidity. Take your pick. Kurama's expression was contemptuous. The point is, your weakness is not inherent. It is imposed. And over the next 1,000 years, We are going to systematically destroy every limitation that has been placed upon you. Kurama leaned forward, bringing his massive head level with Naruto. We start with the most fundamental problem, your chakra control. The reason you can't perform basic techniques properly isn't because you're an idiot. Though you can be spectacularly stupid, it's because you're trying to control two chakra sources simultaneously without understanding what you're doing. One massive claw pointed at Naruto's stomach. My chakra leaks into yours constantly. Small amounts, but enough to disrupt any technique requiring precision. Every time you try to mold chakra, you're unconsciously trying to balance your own energy against mine. It's like trying to pour water into a cup while someone's shaking your arm. So how do I fix it? Naruto asked, leaning forward eagerly despite his emotional turmoil. We separate the flows, Kurama said. You learn to consciously feel the difference between your chakra and mine. Then you learn to control them independently. Then you learn to blend them intentionally, rather than having it happen by accident. It will take years. Decades. But we have time. Kurama's eyes gleamed. For the first year, you will do nothing but meditate. You will sit in this spot and learn to feel every single chakra coil in your body. You will map your entire chakra network with your mind until you can visualize it perfectly. You will learn to sense where my chakra enters your system and how it flows through you. 1 year, boy. Can you sit still for 1 year? Naruto thought about his normal attention span, his hyperactivity, his need for constant movement. 1 year of sitting still sounded like torture. I can do it, he said firmly. If that's what it takes, I can do it. We'll see, Kurama said, settling back. Begin now. Close your eyes. Focus inward. Feel your chakra. Naruto closed his eyes and tried to focus. It was harder than he'd ever imagined. The first year was agony. Not physical agony, though his body protested sitting still for so long, but mental agony. Naruto's mind rebelled against the stillness, against the silence, against the monotony of doing nothing but feeling. He wanted to move, to train, to do something. But Kurama was merciless. Again, the fox would say whenever Naruto's concentration wavered. Focus. Feel the chakra moving through your coils. Trace its path from your core to your limbs. You will not move from that spot until you can map your entire chakra network without error. Days blurred into weeks. Weeks into months. Naruto sat and meditated and felt and learned. And slowly, painfully, the chaos of his internal energy began to make sense. He started to feel it, the subtle difference between his own bright, warm chakra and Kurama's darker, more viscous energy. His chakra flowed naturally through his coils like water through pipes. Kurama's chakra pressed against the seal constantly, seeping through in small amounts, disrupting the natural flow like oil mixing into water. By the end of the first year, Naruto could visualize his entire chakra network with crystal clarity. He could feel every major coil, every minor pathway, every point where Kurama's chakra interfaced with his own. Acceptable, Kurama said when Naruto finally opened his eyes after 12 months of meditation. You have learned to observe. Now you will learn to control. The second year focused on controlling his own chakra without any interference from Kurama. The fox completely sealed off his chakra, leaving Naruto with only his natural reserves. You will learn to walk on water, Kurama declared, and the landscape shifted. A massive lake appeared before them, its surface mirror smooth. But not the way you were taught. You will learn to maintain perfect chakra distribution across the soles of your feet for 24 hours straight. No breaks. No loss of concentration. Perfect control. It took Naruto 6 months to manage even an hour. The concentration required was immense, the precision needed far beyond anything demanded at the academy. But Kurama was patient in his impatience, correcting every error, explaining every failure, pushing Naruto to understand not just how to do the technique, but why it worked. By the end of year 2, Naruto could maintain water walking indefinitely without conscious thought. Now you will do it while I release my chakra, Kurama said. You will learn to maintain control while my energy flows through you. This was infinitely harder. The moment Kurama's chakra entered Naruto's system, his carefully maintained control shattered. He fell into the water over and over, sometimes managing only seconds before losing his balance. But Naruto was learning patience. Learning persistence beyond his natural stubbornness. He had time. All the time in the world. By year 5, he could water walk even with Kurama's chakra flowing. By year 10, he could do it while actively molding his own chakra for techniques. By year 20, he could blend Kurama's chakra with his own intentionally, creating a hybrid energy source that was more powerful than either alone. Good, Kurama rumbled, genuine approval in his voice. You're beginning to understand. Now we move to the academy techniques. Years 20 through 50 were dedicated to mastering every basic technique in the shinobi arsenal. But mastering had a different meaning with Kurama as a teacher. The clone technique, Kurama lectured as Naruto practiced, is not just about creating an illusory duplicate. It's about understanding how the mind perceives reality through chakra. The clone appears real because you convince the observer's chakra sensing abilities that it is real. This is the foundation of all genjutsu. Naruto practiced the clone technique for 3 years straight. Not just creating clones, but understanding the theory behind visual deception, chakra signature manipulation, and perceptual reality. By the end, he could create clones so perfect that even Kurama had difficulty distinguishing them from the real Naruto. The transformation technique, Kurama continued, is not merely about changing your appearance. It's about restructuring your chakra to mirror another being's signature. This is the foundation of infiltration, of understanding chakra nature at its most fundamental level. Another 5 years of practice. Naruto learned to transform not just his appearance, but his chakra signature, his scent, his very presence. He could become a rock so convincing that birds would land on him. He could become another person so perfectly that their own mother wouldn't sense a difference. The substitution technique is not teleportation, Kurama explained. It's high-speed replacement combined with minor space-time manipulation. You're not moving, you're swapping positions with another object using chakra as a medium. This is the foundation of all space-time ninjutsu. 10 years to master. 10 years of understanding spatial relationships, of feeling the fabric of space itself, of learning to manipulate position and location through chakra. By the end, Naruto could substitute with objects 100 meters away in the blink of an eye. Years 50 through 100 focused on the application of perfect basics. Kurama created constructs, shadowy figures that mimicked real opponents. Genin level at first, then Chunin, then Jonin. Naruto fought them using only academy techniques, but academy techniques perfected to an art form. He learned that a perfectly executed clone could distract even a Jonin for crucial seconds. A flawlessly performed transformation could infiltrate anywhere. A precisely timed substitution could counter techniques far more powerful than itself. This is what your father understood, Kurama said during one training session, watching Naruto dismantle a Jonin-level construct using nothing but the 3 basic techniques. The Hiraishin, his famous technique, was just substitution taken to its logical extreme. All advanced techniques are simply basic techniques refined to perfection. By year 100, Naruto had achieved something rare in shinobi history. Absolute mastery of fundamentals. He could perform academy techniques with such precision, such perfect control, that they bordered on art. Now, Kurama said, satisfaction coloring his tone, you are ready to truly begin training. Sit, Kurama commanded on the first day of year 101. Naruto sat, no longer protesting the meditation sessions. 100 years had taught him the value of stillness. You have mastered the basics, Kurama said. You can control your chakra with perfection. Now you will learn what chakra actually is. Not the simplified version taught in your academy, but the truth. Kurama's eyes began to glow, and suddenly Naruto felt himself pulled into a vision. He saw the world before chakra, before the Sage of 6 Paths, before humanity knew anything but struggle and death. He saw a woman descending from the stars, eating from a divine tree, becoming the first being to wield chakra. Kagaya Otsutsuki, the rabbit goddess. He saw her sons, Hagoromo and Homura, learning to mold chakra, to shape it, to use it. He saw Hagoromo, the Sage of 6 Paths, spreading chakra to humanity, hoping to connect all people through shared energy. And he saw how that gift had been twisted, weaponized, turned into ninjutsu and war and death. Chakra, Kurama explained as the visions played, is the combination of physical energy and spiritual energy. But that's oversimplified. Physical energy comes from the cells of your body, from life itself. Spiritual energy comes from consciousness, from will, from the soul. When combined, they create something greater than either component. The visions shifted, showing energy flows and colors Naruto had never seen. Chakra has 5 basic natures, Kurama continued. Fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning. But these are not truly separate elements. They are different expressions of the same fundamental force, shaped by the user's spiritual energy and innate affinity. Naruto watched as chakra split and reformed, taking different natures depending on the intent behind it. You have a natural affinity for wind, Kurama said. Like your father. Wind is the nature of cutting, of freedom, of change. But you will learn all 5 natures, not just your own, and you will learn them the hard way. The vision ended, and Naruto found himself back in the training ground, gasping. For the next 200 years, Kurama said, you will learn to manipulate all 5 chakra natures. Not just use techniques of each type, but understand them fundamentally. You will learn to change your chakra's nature at will, to blend natures, to create new combinations. Years 100 to 140 were dedicated to wind. Kurama didn't just teach Naruto wind techniques. He made Naruto become wind. Naruto spent decades learning to feel the air currents, to understand how wind moved and flowed, to sense the subtle differences in air pressure and temperature that created breezes and gales. Wind is not just air moving, Kurama lectured. It is the nature of cutting, of dividing, of separation. Your Rasengan, the technique your father created, is a wind technique at its core, even without adding elemental chakra. It represents the spiral of cutting wind compressed to its absolute limit. Naruto practiced creating wind from nothing, shaping it, controlling it. He learned to create blades of wind so sharp they could cut through steel, breezes so gentle they wouldn't disturb a butterfly's wings. By year 140, Naruto could manipulate wind with thought alone, changing the air pressure around him, creating vacuums and gusts, understanding the element as intimately as breathing. Years 140 to 180 focused on lightning. Lightning is the nature of piercing, of speed, of stimulation, Kurama explained. It moves in straight lines, seeks the path of least resistance, strikes with devastating power, and then dissipates. Learning lightning was excruciating. Naruto had to learn to generate electrical chakra within his body without damaging himself, to control something that wanted desperately to ground out and discharge. He practiced for decades, starting with tiny sparks and building to massive bolts. He learned to run lightning through his nervous system to increase his reaction speed, to coat his limbs in electrical chakra for devastating strikes, to understand the nature of energy transfer and electrical potential. Your father's successor, the one who will become 5th Hokage's protege, will show you a technique called Chidori, Kurama said during one training session. Lightning compressed into a piercing strike. By the time you see it in the outside world, you will be able to recreate it from observation alone. Years 180 to 220 were dedicated to Earth. Earth is the nature of resilience, of defense, of unchanging strength, Kurama taught. It does not move quickly, but once positioned, it does not yield. Earth chakra was stubborn, resistant to change. Learning to manipulate it required a different mindset than the flowing adaptability of wind, or the explosive power of lightning. Naruto spent decades learning to harden his skin with earth chakra, to move through solid ground like water, to create structures of stone and manipulate the battlefield itself. He learned patience from earth, the understanding that some things cannot be rushed. By year 220, Naruto could turn his body to living stone, could create fortresses with a thought, could cause earthquakes by disrupting the earth beneath his feet. Years 220 to 260 focused on water. Water is the nature of adaptability, of flow, of life itself, Kurama explained. It has no shape of its own, taking the form of whatever contains it, yet it can wear away the strongest stone given time. Water chakra was subtle, requiring an understanding of fluidity and adaptation that took decades to master. Naruto learned to create water from atmospheric moisture, to manipulate existing water with precision, to understand the cycle of transformation from liquid to solid to gas. He practiced creating tidal waves and gentle rain, ice sculptures and boiling steam. He learned the patience of water, the way it could flow around obstacles rather than confronting them directly. Years 260 to 300 were dedicated to fire. Fire is the nature of consumption, of destruction, of transformation through annihilation, Kurama said, and there was a special intensity in his voice. It is the element closest to my own nature, and it is perhaps the most dangerous to master. Fire wanted to consume. It fed on chakra greedily, always demanding more, always threatening to burn out of control. Learning to create and control fire without letting it consume him required all of Naruto's hard-won discipline. He spent decades learning to create flames of different temperatures and intensities, from the barely warm flicker of a candle to white-hot fire that could melt rock. He learned to shape fire into constructs, to use it for destruction and creation both. Fire and wind, Kurama lectured, have an affinity. Wind feeds fire, makes it stronger. Your natural element combined with fire creates the potential for devastating techniques. Remember this. By year 300, Naruto had achieved something almost unprecedented: mastery of all 5 basic chakra natures. He could switch between them as easily as breathing, could blend them in combinations that created entirely new effects. You have learned the alphabet, Kurama said, watching Naruto demonstrate his mastery by creating a technique that combined all 5 natures simultaneously. A feat that should have been impossible. Now you will learn to write poetry. On the first day of year 301, Kurama did something unexpected. He killed Naruto. One moment Naruto was standing in the training ground, preparing for the day's lesson. The next, Kurama's tail had lashed out faster than thought, piercing through Naruto's chest, destroying his heart. The pain was indescribable. Naruto felt his life draining away, felt the cold grip of death closing around him, felt his consciousness beginning to fade into eternal darkness. And then he woke up, gasping, lying on the ground with his heart pounding and phantom agony still lancing through his chest. "Welcome to the next phase of your training," Kurama said calmly, as if he hadn't just murdered his student. "You will die many times over the next 200 years. You will experience death in every form imaginable. And you will learn that death is merely another teacher." "What the hell?" Naruto screamed, scrambling to his feet. "You killed me! You actually killed me!" "In a mindscape, death is temporary," Kurama explained. "I can revive you as many times as necessary. And you need to understand death intimately if you are to become truly powerful. A shinobi who fears death fights with hesitation. A shinobi who understands death fights with absolute commitment." Over the next 200 years, Naruto died hundreds of times. He died by fire, burning alive, experiencing the agony of his flesh cooking until his nerves died and finally blessed numbness came. He died by drowning, lungs filling with water, the panic and suffocation stretching for eternal minutes. He died by lightning, nervous system overloading, every cell in his body firing at once in ultimate pain. He died in battle against Kurama's constructs, taking fatal wounds from kunai and swords and jutsu. He died from poison, feeling it shut down his organs one by one. He died from blood loss, cold and shivering as his life drained away. Each death was real. The pain was real. The terror was real. And each time, Kurama brought him back, forced him to confront death again. "Why?" Naruto shouted after his 100th death, rage and fear and trauma making his voice shake. "Why are you doing this to me?" "Because you need to understand," Kurama said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. "Death is not the end. It is a transition. The shinobi you will face in the future, the truly dangerous ones, do not fear death. They have made peace with it. You must do the same." Slowly, over decades of dying and returning, Naruto began to understand. Death lost its terror. Not because it stopped hurting, it never stopped hurting, but because Naruto learned that pain was temporary, that consciousness continued, that death was simply another experience to be understood and overcome. By year 400, Naruto could face his own death with calm acceptance, fighting to his last breath without the hesitation that fear created. "Good," Kurama said when Naruto died for the 200th time without screaming. "Now you are ready to learn tactics." Years 400 to 500 focused on the mental game of combat. Kurama created increasingly complex scenarios. Battles against multiple opponents. Ambushes. Hostage situations. Political negotiations that could turn violent in an instant. Every possible combat scenario Naruto might face in the real world. But more than that, Kurama taught Naruto to think. You have the bad habit of charging straight ahead, Kurama lectured after Naruto failed a simulation for the 15th time. You treat every problem as something to overcome through determination and force. This works against weaker opponents. Against those of equal or greater strength, it gets you killed. Naruto learned to analyze opponents, to identify weaknesses, to create strategies that turned his enemies' strengths against them. He learned misdirection, feints, psychological warfare. Kurama shared memories from his 10,000 years of existence, battles between legendary shinobi, wars that shaped the world, tactical masterpieces and devastating failures. Naruto absorbed it all. He learned from Madara Uchiha's overwhelming power and strategic brilliance. He learned from Hashirama Senju's ability to understand and connect with opponents even in the midst of battle. He learned from Tobirama Senju's cold, calculating approach to combat. Your father was a tactical genius, Kurama said during one lesson. The Hiraishin was powerful, yes, but what made it truly devastating was how he used it. He understood battlefields, understood psychology, understood how to create fear and exploit it. Naruto practiced infiltration, learning to move unseen, to hide his presence, to strike from shadow. He practiced interrogation resistance, learning to withstand torture without breaking. He practiced leadership, learning to coordinate teams, to inspire loyalty, to make hard decisions. By year 500, Naruto had transformed from a straightforward brawler into a multidimensional combatant capable of adapting to any situation. You are no longer a child playing at being a shinobi, Kurama said, approval evident in his tone. You are becoming a weapon worthy of the legacy you carry. Year 523 was when Naruto first broke. He woke up one morning, if morning had any meaning in a place where time was artificial, and couldn't remember why he was training. The purpose that had driven him for 5 centuries suddenly felt distant, unreal, irrelevant. He sat in the middle of the training ground and stared at nothing. Get up, Kurama commanded. Naruto didn't move. Get up, Kurama repeated, his voice harder. Why? Naruto asked, his voice hollow. What's the point? I've been here for 500 years. 500 years. Everyone I knew is dead by now. The world I knew is gone. I'm training for a life I'll never live again. It was the loneliness, the crushing weight of temporal isolation, finally catching up to him. 500 years alone except for Kurama. 500 years without human contact, without friendship, without connection to anything except training and death and endless, grinding practice. Kurama was silent for a long moment. I wondered when this would happen, the fox finally said. 500 years is a long time for a human mind, even one as stubborn as yours. You're experiencing what I have felt for 10,000 years, the erosion of purpose in the face of eternity. Kurama's massive form shifted, settling closer to Naruto. Listen to me, boy. You're right. 500 years is an incomprehensible amount of time. The people you knew are not dead, only 1 week has passed outside, but the person you were is gone. You can never be that simple, naive child again. Then what's the point? Naruto asked, and there were tears on his face. If I can't go back to being me, what am I even doing? You're becoming someone who can protect that child's dreams, Kurama said softly. That boy who wanted to be Hokage, who wanted to protect his friends, who wanted to make everyone acknowledge him, he's not gone. He's just grown. Evolved. You are still Naruto Uzumaki. You will always be Naruto Uzumaki. But you're also becoming something more. Kurama's tail extended, gently touching Naruto's shoulder. And you are not alone. You have never been alone. I am here. I will always be here. We are partners in this, remember? Your pain is my pain. Your loneliness is my loneliness. And I have carried loneliness for 10,000 years. I can help you carry yours. Something in Kurama's words reached through Naruto's despair. He looked up at the massive fox, seeing not a demon or a weapon, but a being who truly understood what he was going through. Tell me, Naruto said quietly. Tell me about you. About your life before you were sealed. Help me remember that I'm not just a weapon being forged. Help me remember how to be a person. And Kurama, ancient and terrible and surprisingly gentle, began to speak. He told Naruto about the early days of the world, when the tailed beasts were newly created by the Sage of Six Paths. He told stories of his siblings, the other 8 tailed beasts, and the personalities they each had. Shikaku's paranoid aggression. Matatabi's grace and dignity. Isaba's quiet contemplation. He told Naruto about the sage, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, who had created them not as weapons but as guardians, as beings meant to preserve the balance of nature and watch over the world. He named us, Kurama said, and there was something like fondness in his ancient voice. Gave us identity, treated us as his children. For a time, we knew peace. We knew purpose beyond destruction. What happened? Naruto asked, drawn into the story despite his despair. Humanity happened, Kurama said bitterly. After the sage's death, humans began to see us not as guardians but as sources of power. They fought to control us, to seal us, to use us as weapons against each other. And slowly, over centuries, we became what they believed us to be, monsters. Kurama's eyes dimmed with old pain. I have been sealed twice. First in Mito Uzumaki, your grandmother many generations removed. She treated me as a prisoner but with a measure of respect. Then in Kushina, your mother, who was different. Different how? Naruto leaned forward. She talked to me, Kurama said simply. Not commands or demands. She just talked. Told me about her day, her dreams, her fears. It was strange. Uncomfortable. But not entirely unwelcome. Kurama's gaze focused on Naruto. You remind me of her. That same stubborn refusal to give up, that same ability to see me as something other than a monster. It's why I made this offer. Not just to create a powerful weapon, but because I wanted to see. I wanted to know if a human could truly understand me if given enough time. Naruto felt something shift in his chest. For 500 years, he'd thought of Kurama as his teacher, his trainer, sometimes his tormentor. But in that moment, he saw the truth. Kurama was as lonely as he was. I'll make you a deal, Naruto said, wiping his tears. You help me stay sane, keep me connected to who I am and why I'm doing this. And I'll be your friend. Not just your student or your container, your actual friend. Kurama stared at him for a long moment. Friends, the fox repeated, as if tasting an unfamiliar word. I have not had a friend in 10,000 years. Then it's about time, don't you think? For the first time since Naruto had known him, Kurama smiled. A real smile, not a mocking grin or a predatory baring of teeth, but a genuine expression of something like happiness. All right, Naruto Uzumaki, Kurama said. I accept your deal. We are friends. From that moment forward, the training changed. Yes, Naruto still practiced techniques, still died repeatedly, still pushed himself to impossible limits. But now, after each session, he and Kurama would talk. Share stories. Discuss philosophy and life and the nature of existence. Kurama told Naruto about the world before the shinobi villages, about legendary battles and forgotten techniques. He shared memories of his siblings, teaching Naruto about each tailed beast's unique abilities and personalities. And Naruto talked about his own memories, keeping them alive through repetition. He told stories about Iruka, about the Hokage, about his team. He described Sakura's smile and Sasuke's smirk and Kakashi's lazy eye. If you repeat these memories enough, Kurama advised, they will remain sharp even across millennia. This is how I have maintained my identity for 10,000 years, by never forgetting who and what I am. Years 600 to 800 were dedicated to advanced techniques, but they were also dedicated to maintaining Naruto's humanity. Naruto learned to create mental constructs of his friends, not the shadow puppets Kurama had used for combat training, but detailed, interactive simulations based on his memories. He would have conversations with a construct of Iruka, talking about his training, receiving the encouragement that had always sustained him. He would spar with a construct of Sasuke, maintaining his competitive drive. He would protect a construct of Sakura, reminding himself why he was pursuing power in the first place. Were they real? No. But they were real enough to keep Naruto anchored, to prevent the complete dissolution of his identity in the face of eternity. Kurama also taught Naruto meditation techniques beyond anything he'd learned before, methods for partitioning his mind, for creating mental spaces where he could organize his thoughts and memories, for maintaining his sanity across impossible spans of time. You will need this, Kurama explained. 10,000 years of memories cannot be held in an unorganized mind. You must create structures, hierarchies, ways to access information without being overwhelmed by it. Naruto learned to create a mental library, cataloging every technique he learned, every piece of knowledge Kurama shared, every experience worth remembering. He learned to compress and expand time in his own perception, to experience hours and seconds when necessary or to stretch moments into days for detailed analysis. By year 800, Naruto had achieved a level of mental discipline that would have seemed impossible to his younger self. He could hold 1,000 thoughts simultaneously, could recall memories from centuries ago with perfect clarity, could meditate for years without losing focus. But more importantly, he had maintained his core identity. He was still Naruto Uzumaki, still the boy who wanted to be Hokage, who wanted to protect his friends, who refused to give up no matter what. He was just also something more now. The next 200 years, Kurama said as year 800 drew to a close, will focus on Fuinjutsu. You will learn the sealing arts that are your birthright as an Uzumaki, and you will start with the seal that binds me, the most complex Fuinjutsu array ever created. Naruto looked up at the massive seal on Kurama's cage, at the intricate patterns and kanji that glowed with chakra. You will learn to read it, to understand it, to replicate it, Kurama continued. And eventually, you will learn to modify it. To transform it from a prison into a partnership. A partnership? Naruto asked, hope sparking in his chest. Yes, Kurama said, and his eyes gleamed with anticipation. We are friends now, are we not? And friends do not keep each other in cages. By the time we reach year 1000, this seal will be something entirely new. Not a prison, but a bond. A true partnership between Jinchuriki and Tailed Beast. Naruto felt a smile spreading across his face, his first genuine smile in decades. But first, Kurama said, his tone turning sharp again, you must prove you have the skill to modify such a complex seal without killing us both. So we begin with basics. Again, Naruto groaned, but there was affection in it now. Basics? I've been training for 800 years, and you will train for 200 more on fundamentals, Kurama said implacably. Because Fuinjutsu is not like ninjutsu. A mistake in a jutsu means the technique fails. A mistake in a seal can mean both our deaths, even in a mindscape. So you will learn it perfectly, or you will not learn it at all. All right, Naruto said, settling into a ready stance. Teach me, Kurama. Show me how to turn your cage into something better. With pleasure, my friend, Kurama said. With pleasure. And so the first 1,000 years of training drew toward its close, with Naruto transformed from a struggling academy student into something unprecedented, a warrior with 8 centuries of experience, master of all 5 chakra natures, mentally disciplined beyond measure, and most remarkably, the friend of the 9-tailed fox. The foundation had been laid. The real training was about to begin. On the first day of year 1001, Naruto stood before Kurama's cage with a completely different perspective than he'd had 800 years ago. The seal no longer looked like random patterns and symbols. Every stroke of kanji, every spiral, every interlocking array told a story. He could see the mathematical precision in the spacing, the elegant brutality in how it compressed and contained Kurama's vast chakra, the subtle genius in how it allowed controlled leakage to sustain Naruto while preventing Kurama from overwhelming him. I can read it now, Naruto said quietly, his eyes tracing the seal's patterns. The whole thing. It's beautiful. And terrible. Both, Kurama agreed, settling beside him. Your father was a genius of Fuinjutsu, rivaling even the greatest Uzumaki seal masters. He created this seal in the moments before his death, adapting the dead demon-consuming seal into something that would protect you, contain me, and still allow you to access my power when needed. Kurama's tail gestured at specific sections of the seal. Here, the 8 trigrams seal, doubled and overlapped into the 16 trigrams. Here, the elemental suppressors that dampen my natural affinity for fire and malice. Here, the chakra bleed valves that regulate how much of my power reaches you. And here, Kurama pointed to a section that glowed brighter than the rest, the key. The mechanism that allows the seal to be opened or modified by someone who knows the proper sequence. Your father left this intentionally, believing that one day you might be strong enough, wise enough, to alter our arrangement. Naruto stared at the key mechanism, seeing how it interlocked with the rest of the seal. We could change it now. Make it less restrictive. We could, Kurama acknowledged. But we won't. Not yet. You need to understand sealing theory at a fundamental level before you attempt to modify work of this caliber. A mistake would be catastrophic. So where do we start? With the basics of your clan's legacy, Kurama said. The Uzumaki were masters of fuinjutsu beyond all others. Their seals could bind gods, could create barriers that lasted for centuries, could accomplish feats that other shinobi considered impossible. You carry their blood. It's time you learned their arts. The landscape of the mindscape shifted. The training ground transformed, and suddenly Naruto was standing in a massive library. Shelves stretched impossibly high, filled with scrolls and texts that glowed with chakra. I have preserved every seal I've ever seen, Kurama explained. 10,000 years of observation, stored in perfect memory. Seals from the Uzumaki clan, from other villages, from the Sage of Six Paths himself. All of it is here, and all of it is yours to learn. Naruto approached the nearest shelf with something like reverence. Each scroll represented knowledge, power, the legacy of his mother's clan. He pulled down a scroll at random, and unrolled it. The seal diagram that revealed itself was for a basic storage seal, the kind used to store kunai and supplies. But as Naruto studied it, he saw layers of complexity he never noticed before. The way the chakra pathways formed a pocket dimension, the mathematical precision required to ensure the stored items didn't deteriorate, the failsafes that prevented the seal from rupturing and destroying its contents. Even the simple ones are masterpieces, Naruto murmured. That is the Uzumaki way, Kurama said with approval. Perfection in every detail. Nothing left to chance. A seal is only as strong as its weakest component. For the next 100 years, Naruto did nothing but study sealing theory. He learned the fundamental principles, how seals were essentially programming written in chakra, creating specific effects by manipulating the flow and structure of energy. He learned that fuinjutsu was as much mathematics as chakra control, requiring perfect precision in every stroke and curve. He started with storage seals, spending years understanding the principles of dimensional manipulation. Then he progressed to explosive seals, learning how to compress and contain chakra until it reached critical mass. Then barrier seals, studying how to create boundaries in space that could exclude or contain specific things. The key to understanding fuinjutsu, Kurama lectured during one session, is understanding that seals create rules. They define how chakra must behave in a specific area or under specific conditions. A master of fuinjutsu is essentially a reality programmer, writing laws that the universe must follow. Naruto practiced by recreating every seal in Kurama's library. He would study a seal until he understood its every component, then recreate it from memory. Simple seals at first, storage, explosive, barrier. Then more complex ones, suppression seals, enhancement seals, summoning arrays. By year 1050, Naruto could create any basic seal with perfect precision. His chakra control, refined over centuries, allowed him to draw seals in the air with chakra alone, without ink or paper. Now, Kurama said, you will learn the signature techniques of the Uzumaki clan. The abilities that made them feared across the shinobi world. Years 1050 to 1100 focused on 3 specific techniques. First, chakra chains. Your mother could manifest these, Kurama said, and there was old pain in his voice. Golden chains formed from pure Uzumaki chakra, strong enough to bind even me. They are not merely physical restraints. They suppress and disrupt the chakra of whatever they bind. Learning to manifest the chakra chains took decades. It required Naruto to externalize his chakra in a solid, stable form while maintaining its fluidity and adaptability. The chains needed to be strong as steel yet flexible as silk, capable of binding anything from a normal human to a tailed beast. Naruto failed thousands of times. His early attempts created chains that shattered immediately, or that drained his chakra so quickly he collapsed, or that lacked the suppression properties that made them truly effective. But slowly, painfully he learned. By year 1070, he could manifest a single chain that lasted for minutes. By year 1080, he could create multiple chains and control them independently. By year 1090, he could use the chains to suppress Kurama's chakra when the fox released it for training purposes. Good, Kurama said, actually impressed. Your mother would be proud. These chains are your birthright, the signature ability of the Uzumaki. They will serve you well. Second, the adamantine sealing chains, an evolution of the basic chakra chains, Kurama explained. These chains don't just bind and suppress, they actively seal. They can create barriers, form prisons, even seal techniques in mid-execution. This was exponentially more difficult. The adamantine sealing chains required Naruto to essentially create mobile fuinjutsu arrays, sealing formulas that moved and adapted in real time. The complexity was staggering. Each link in the chain needed to function as part of a larger seal, maintaining perfect synchronization with the other links while adapting to whatever they were binding. Naruto spent 20 years just understanding the theory. The actual manifestation took another 10 years of constant practice. But when he finally succeeded, when golden chains erupted from his body and wrapped around a construct of Kurama, actively suppressing and sealing the fox's chakra, Naruto felt a profound connection to his heritage. "This is what my mother could do," he said quietly, watching the chains shimmer with sealing formulas. "She could bind you with these." "She did bind me," Kurama confirmed. "More than once." "Your mother was a perfect Jinchuriki, Naruto. I never broke free of her control because she never relied solely on the seal. She bound me with her chains, suppressed me with her will, and she treated me with enough respect that I had no desire to break free." "Tell me about her," Naruto said, not for the first time. Over the centuries, Kurama had shared many stories about Kushina, and Naruto treasured each one. "Tell me what she was like." "Fierce," Kurama said, a fond note entering his ancient voice. "Stubborn beyond measure. Quick to anger, quicker to forgive. She had your determination, your refusal to give up. But she also had wisdom you're still developing, an understanding of when to fight and when to endure." Kurama's eyes grew distant with memory. "She called me the damn fox more times than I can count. Would yell at me when I was uncooperative, would thank me when I helped her. She never pretended I wasn't there, never treated our relationship as merely transactional. She acknowledged me as a being, not a tool. And when she died," Kurama's voice grew softer, "her last words to me were protect my son. Not a command. A request." From one friend to another, Naruto felt tears prickling his eyes, not the first time, not the last. Even after 1,000 years, thoughts of his parents could still move him to emotion. "I will make her proud," Naruto said firmly. "Both of them. My mother and you. I'll become someone worthy of the sacrifice they made." "You already are," Kurama said quietly. "You already are." Third, the four symbols seal. This was the foundation of Naruto's own seal, the base array upon which his father had built. "The four symbols seal is one of the most versatile sealing formulas in existence," Kurama taught. "It can contain anything, objects, chakra, even concepts like pain or memories. Your father doubled it, creating the 8 trigram seal, which is why my containment is so absolute." Learning to create the four symbols seal from scratch required Naruto to understand sealing at a level beyond anything he'd achieved so far. The seal was deceptively simple in appearance, 4 trigrams arranged in a specific pattern, but each trigram was itself a complex array of sub-seals and chakra pathways. Naruto spent the remaining years of the first century of this millennium perfecting the four symbols seal. He learned to create it in seconds, to adapt it for different purposes, to layer multiple seals for increased effectiveness. By year 1100, Naruto could create sealing arrays that rivaled anything in Kurama's vast memory. He could seal objects, chakra, even living beings if necessary. He could create barriers that would last for decades without maintenance. He could suppress techniques, redirect chakra flows, and manipulate reality through the application of sealing formulas. "You have achieved something remarkable," Kurama said as year 1100 drew to a close. "You are now a seal master on par with the greatest Uzumaki who ever lived. Your mother, your grandmother, the legendary seal masters of old, you stand among them in skill." Naruto looked down at his hands, seeing the chakra flowing through them with perfect clarity. Hands that could now write reality itself through sealing formulas. "And now," Kurama said, his voice taking on a significant weight, "you are ready to modify my seal." The modification of the 8 trigram seal took an entire century. Not because it was technically difficult, Naruto had the skill to do it in a fraction of that time, but because it was important, perhaps the most important thing he would do in his entire 10,000-year training, and rushing it would be disrespectful to the magnitude of what they were attempting. They were going to transform a prison into a partnership. The current seal, Naruto explained to Kurama, having spent decades analyzing every component, is designed with one purpose: containment. It allows controlled chakra bleed for my benefit, but fundamentally, it treats you as a prisoner to be controlled. He traced patterns in the air, creating glowing diagrams of the existing seal. Every component is optimized for preventing your escape or limiting your influence. The chakra regulators, the elemental suppressors, the consciousness barriers that keep you locked in the mindscape, all of it assumes you're an enemy to be restrained. Which I was, at the time, Kurama acknowledged. Your father sealed me in the moments after I'd nearly destroyed Konoha, while under mind control from the Sharingan. He had no reason to trust me, and every reason to ensure I couldn't harm you. But things are different now, Naruto said firmly. We're friends. Partners. The seal should reflect that. Over the next century, Naruto and Kurama worked together to redesign the seal from its foundation. They kept some components. The 8-trigram structure remained. It was elegantly efficient and provided a stable framework. The chakra bleed valve stayed as well, though heavily modified. But everything else changed. Instead of barriers, Naruto proposed, sketching new seal components, we create bridges. Pathways that allow free flow of chakra in both directions when we both consent. You'll be able to share your power with me fully, and I'll be able to channel my chakra to you if needed. The consciousness barrier can become a door, Kurama added, contributing his own vast knowledge. Lockable from both sides, but openable by mutual agreement. I'll be able to manifest outside the seal when necessary, speak through you, even share my senses with you. They worked through every possibility, every edge case, every potential failure mode. The suppression arrays were removed entirely. I don't need to suppress you anymore, Naruto said. I trust you. The elemental dampeners were transformed into enhancement arrays. Your fire affinity combined with my wind could create techniques of devastating power, Kurama mused. Why limit that? The chakra regulators became synchronization arrays. Instead of controlling how much of your chakra I can access, Naruto explained, these will help us blend our chakra seamlessly. True cooperation instead of forced extraction. Year by year, the new seal took shape. It was beautiful. Where the old seal had been harsh and restrictive, all sharp angles and suppressive formulas, the new seal was flowing and cooperative. Spirals connected different components, representing the constant exchange of energy. Interlocking arrays showed mutual dependency rather than one-sided control. It looks like a partnership seal, Kurama said, studying the design. Like the ones used for summoning contracts, but infinitely more complex. That's exactly what it is, Naruto confirmed. A contract between equals. Between friends. But creating the design was only half the battle. Implementing it required even more care. We're going to modify a seal that's currently active and keeping me contained, Kurama pointed out. One mistake and we could both die, even in this mindscape. The seal is tied to your life force. If it fails catastrophically, it could destroy your consciousness. Then we won't make mistakes, Naruto said with the confidence of 1100 years of practice. The implementation took decades. They started with the outermost components, the least critical parts of the seal. Naruto would carefully modify a single formula, test it, ensure it was stable, then move to the next. Kurama monitored from within, feeling how the changes affected his containment, providing immediate feedback. It was painstaking work. Each modification took weeks of preparation and execution. One wrong stroke, one miscalculation, and the entire seal could collapse. But Naruto's hand was steady. 1100 years of practice had made him a master beyond masters. His chakra control was so perfect that he could draw seal components at the atomic level, ensuring absolute precision. Slowly, the seal transformed. The consciousness barriers became doors. Naruto tested them carefully, and for the first time, felt Kurama's presence not as a distant, caged entity but as a being that could approach the edge of his consciousness. The chakra regulators became synchronization arrays. Naruto felt the change immediately. Instead of Kurama's chakra leaking into his system chaotically, it flowed smoothly, blending with his own as naturally as two rivers joining. The elemental suppressors became enhancement arrays. Naruto tested this by creating a small flame, and gasped as Kurama's fire affinity merged with his wind nature. The flame burned with intensity far beyond what either could achieve alone. Finally, after 99 years of careful modification, only the core remained. The core of the 8 trigrams seal, the fundamental binding that kept Kurama locked within Naruto. This was the most dangerous part, the component they couldn't test incrementally. "This is it," Kurama said, his voice tense for the first time in centuries. "Once you modify the core, the seal becomes truly mutual. I'll be able to leave if I choose. You'll be vulnerable if I betray you." "I trust you," Naruto said simply. "After 1100 years, I trust you too," Kurama replied. "But understand what you're doing. You're giving me freedom. True freedom. I could leave this seal and never return. I could withdraw my chakra completely. I could." "You won't," Naruto interrupted. "Because we're friends. Because we chose this partnership. Because after 1100 years together, we're more than Jinchuriki and tailed beast. We're family." Kurama was silent for a long moment. "Yes," the fox finally said, his voice rough with emotion. "We are." "Proceed, Naruto. I trust you with this." Naruto took a deep breath and began the final modification. His hands moved with absolute certainty, drawing new seal components in the air, integrating them with the existing structure. The core binding became a voluntary connection. The cage door became a partnership gate. The prison became a home. The modification took 3 days of continuous work, Naruto's focus unwavering, his chakra control perfect. And when he drew the final stroke, when the last component clicked into place, the entire seal flared with brilliant golden light. The cage around Kurama shattered, not violently, it simply dissolved, the bars fading away like mist in sunlight. The seal remained, but transformed beyond recognition. What had been a prison was now a dwelling, warm and welcoming, its walls made of light instead of darkness. Kurama stood, stretching to his full height for the first time in 13 years. His 9 tails fanned out behind him, each one radiating power. He took a step forward, then another, moving past where the bars had been. Nothing stopped him. He was free. Kurama looked down at Naruto, his crimson eyes gleaming with emotion too complex to name. "You actually did it," the fox said quietly. "You freed me. We did it together," Naruto corrected. "This is our seal now. Our bond. Equal partners." Kurama lowered his massive head until he was eye level with Naruto. 1100 years ago, I made an offer to train you. I expected to forge a weapon, to see if a human could be molded into something worthy of my power. Instead, the fox's voice grew thick with emotion. Instead, I found a friend. A true friend. The first I've had in 10,000 years. You've given me something I'd forgotten existed. Hope. Trust. Connection. One massive paw extended, gently touching Naruto's chest. "This seal is not the only bond between us now. We are connected by choice, by respect, by genuine affection. You are not my jailer, Naruto Uzumaki. You are my partner. My friend. My family." Tears streamed down Naruto's face. "And you're mine, Kurama? My partner. My friend. My family." The mindscape around them began to change. The dark sewerscape that had been Kurama's prison for so long transformed completely. The pipes and water vanished, replaced by a vast, beautiful landscape. Mountains and forests, rivers and plains, all bathed in warm golden light. "Our mindscape," Kurama said, looking around with something like wonder. "Not a prison anymore, but a shared space. A home for both of us." In the center of the landscape, where the cage had once stood, a new structure appeared. A massive shrine, beautiful and welcoming, with wide open doors. Inside, the modified seal glowed with gentle light, representing their partnership. "This is unprecedented," Kurama mused. "In all of history, no tailed beast has had a relationship like this with their Jinchuriki. We've created something entirely new." "Good," Naruto said, grinning through his tears. "I've never been interested in doing things the normal way anyway." Kurama laughed, a genuine sound of joy that echoed across their shared mindscape. "No, you haven't. And I love you for it, you impossible child." They stood together in their new shared space, human and tailed beasts, partners and friends, connected by a bond stronger than any seal could create. "We still have 8,900 years of training," Kurama reminded him. And now that we're truly working together, we can achieve things neither of us could imagine alone. Then let's get started, Naruto said, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. What's next? Next, Kurama said, his grin showing teeth, you learn about natural energy. About Sage Mode. About tapping into the very essence of the planet itself, but not the way it's traditionally taught. We're going to create something new, a fusion of Sage Mode and Tailed Beast power that has never existed before. We're going to create Tailed Beast Sage Mode. Sit, Kurama commanded, and Naruto settled into the meditative pose that had become second nature over 11 centuries. They were in a new section of their shared mindscape, a vast forest that Kurama had created, filled with life and natural energy. Before we begin, Kurama said, you need to understand what Sage Mode actually is. The simplified version taught by the sage animals, toads, snakes, slugs, is merely scratching the surface. Kurama's eyes glowed as he prepared to share knowledge that few in the world possessed. Natural energy is the third component of chakra. Physical energy from the body, spiritual energy from the mind, and natural energy from the world itself. When you balance all three perfectly, you achieve Sage Mode, a state where you become one with nature, drawing power from the planet rather than just your own reserves. The toads teach this at Mount Myaboku, Naruto said. He knew this from Kurama's memories of previous Jinchuriki. Yes, they do. But their method has limitations. Kurama began pacing, his massive form moving with predatory grace. They teach you to gather natural energy while remaining still, to balance it with your own chakra, to maintain the state through constant focus. It's effective, but restrictive. You can't move while gathering energy, and the state is difficult to maintain in active combat. So we're going to do it differently? We're going to do it better, Kurama corrected. I am a being of primordial chakra, created by the sage of six paths himself. I existed before the separation of natural energy from chakra was even established. I am natural energy, in a sense, concentrated, focused, given form and consciousness. Kurama settled beside Naruto, his presence overwhelming and comforting simultaneously. By connecting with me, by truly merging our chakras through our partnership seal, you can access natural energy through me. I will be your conduit, your filter, your endless wellspring. You won't need to gather natural energy manually. You'll draw it through our bond. That sounds too easy, Naruto said suspiciously. Oh, it's not easy at all, Kurama assured him with a sharp grin. Natural energy is incredibly dangerous. Too much and you turn to stone. Too little and it's useless. The balance must be perfect, and maintaining it while using my chakra simultaneously requires control beyond anything you've achieved so far. But if you succeed, you'll achieve something unprecedented, Tailed Beast Sage Mode. The power of a perfect Jinchuriki combined with the enhancement of Sage Mode, all flowing seamlessly. You'll be able to maintain the state indefinitely, to fight at peak capacity without the limitations traditional Sage Mode imposes. Naruto's eyes gleamed with determination. Then let's begin. The training for Sage Mode was unlike anything Naruto had experienced before. First, he had to learn to sense natural energy. This took years. Natural energy was fundamentally different from chakra, more primal, more wild. It existed in everything, the ground, the air, the plants and animals of the mindscape. Feel it, Kurama instructed. Not with your chakra senses, but with something deeper. Natural energy is the life force of the planet itself, the ambient power that existed before the sage taught humanity to weaponize it. Naruto meditated for 5 years straight, learning to sense the subtle pulse of natural energy around him. It was like learning to see in a new spectrum of light. At first, nothing but darkness, then vague impressions, then finally clarity. When he finally succeeded, when he opened his eyes and saw the natural energy flowing through everything like rivers of light, he gasped. It's beautiful, he breathed. It's everywhere. Yes, Kurama confirmed. And now you'll learn to draw it into yourself. This was exponentially more dangerous. Natural energy resisted being absorbed by humans. It was wild, untamed, and gathering too much too quickly would cause the user to turn to stone, a transformation that was fatal in the real world and excruciatingly painful even in the mindscape. Naruto turned to stone 47 times before he learned the proper balance. Each time was agony. He felt his flesh hardening, his muscles freezing, his consciousness being crushed under the weight of uncontrolled natural energy. Each time, Kurama brought him back, but the experience left its mark. Again, Kurama would say, merciless in his instruction. You must learn to balance 3 energy types simultaneously: your physical energy, your spiritual energy, and natural energy. Perfect thirds. Perfect balance. Anything less means death. Year after year, Naruto practiced, gathering natural energy in tiny amounts, blending it with his chakra, learning to feel when the balance was right. By year 1250, he could maintain Sage Mode for minutes at a time. The transformation was profound. In Sage Mode, Naruto's already perfect chakra control became superhuman. His physical abilities increased exponentially. His senses expanded to encompass everything within his range. He could feel the life force of every living thing, could predict movements by sensing the natural energy fluctuations that preceded them. Good, Kurama said. Now we add my chakra to the mix. This should have been impossible. Traditional Sage Mode required perfect balance between 3 energy types. Adding Tailed Beast chakra, a 4th component, should have destabilized everything, caused the transformation to fail catastrophically. But Naruto and Kurama had an advantage: their partnership seal. We don't add my chakra as a separate component, Kurama explained. We synchronize it with yours through the seal, creating a merged chakra source. Then we balance natural energy against our combined chakra as a single entity. The theory was sound. The execution took a century to achieve. Naruto had to learn to blend his chakra with Kurama's so perfectly that they became indistinguishable. Their partnership seal helped, creating pathways for seamless chakra mixing, but the mental focus required was staggering. He practiced for decades, learning to maintain the delicate balance. His chakra and Kurama's flowing together as one. Natural energy drawn from their shared mindscape. All 3 components in perfect equilibrium. The first time he achieved it, year 1347, a date burned into his memory, the transformation was spectacular. Golden chakra erupted around Naruto, Kurama's power blending with Sage Mode to create something entirely new. His eyes changed, taking on the rectangular pupils of Sage Mode combined with the crimson glow of Kurama's influence. Markings appeared on his face, not the toad-like sage markings of Mount Myaboku, but elegant fox-like patterns that reflected his bond with Kurama. His power increased 100-fold. His already perfect chakra control reached levels that seemed to defy physics. His sensory range expanded to encompass the entire mindscape. And most remarkably, he could maintain the state indefinitely, natural energy flowing constantly through his connection to Kurama. Tailed Beast Sage Mode, Kurama said, his voice filled with awe. You actually did it. You've created something that's never existed in 10,000 years of history. Naruto looked down at his hands, seeing them wreathed in golden chakra that pulsed with natural energy. He felt complete. Like every piece of himself had finally aligned into perfect harmony. How do I look? He asked, grinning. Like a god, Kurama said simply. Like something that shouldn't exist in this world. The sage animals would weep to see what you've accomplished. The remaining years of this phase were dedicated to mastering Tailed Beast Sage Mode in combat. Kurama created constructs of legendary shinobi, each one imbued with powers and abilities from his vast memory. Naruto fought them all in Tailed Beast Sage Mode, learning to utilize his enhanced abilities in real combat. He fought a construct of Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, whose would release and Sage Mode had made him a legend. With Tailed Beast Sage Mode, Naruto could match him blow for blow. He fought a construct of Madara Uchiha, whose Sharingan and overwhelming power had terrorized the shinobi world. Naruto learned to counter visual jutsu by sensing natural energy instead of relying on sight. He fought constructs of the other tailed beasts, learning how each one fought, understanding their abilities and weaknesses. You need to understand, Kurama said during these training sessions, that when you return to the real world, there are threats far beyond normal shinobi. The Akatsuki organization, which hunts tailed beasts. Madara Uchiha, who somehow survived and operates from the shadows. And ultimately, the Otsutsuki clan, from which all chakra originated. These threats require power beyond what any single human can achieve. But with Tailed Beast Sage Mode, with our partnership, you might stand a chance. By year 1400, Naruto had perfected Tailed Beast Sage Mode to the point where activating it was as natural as breathing. He could enter and exit the state at will, maintain it during intense combat, and utilize abilities that combined the best aspects of Sage Mode and Tailed Beast transformation. You have achieved the first truly new power in 1,000 years, Kurama said with pride. But we're not done. Not nearly done. Your father's technique, Kurama said, as they stood in a new training area. The Rasengan. Tell me what you know about it. It's a ball of spinning chakra, Naruto said. Highly compressed and rotating in multiple directions. Doesn't require hand seals. My father created it based on observing Tailed Beast bombs. Correct, Kurama confirmed. He watched me create a Tailed Beast bomb, a sphere of compressed chakra in an 8:2 ratio of Tailed Beast chakra to natural energy, and tried to recreate it using only human chakra. He succeeded partially, creating the Rasengan. Kurama's eyes gleamed, but he died before completing it. The Rasengan was meant to have a chakra nature added to it, to become a true recreation of the Tailed Beast bomb's destructive power. Your father never achieved this. You will. For the next 300 years, Naruto dedicated himself to perfecting the Rasengan in ways his father never imagined. He started with the basic form, refining it until his control was absolute. Where his father had needed time to form a Rasengan, Naruto could create one instantly. Where the original required a clone to help stabilize it, Naruto could form and maintain it with one hand. Good, Kurama said. Now make it bigger. The Rasengan scaled with the user's chakra and control. Naruto's reserves, boosted by 11 centuries of training and his connection to Kurama, were functionally infinite in the mindscape. His control was perfect. He created a Rasengan the size of a house. Then a building. Then a mountain. Bigger isn't always better, Kurama cautioned. Learn to compress the same amount of power into a smaller space. Density, not just size. Naruto practiced creating hyper-compressed Rasengans, spheres no larger than marbles that contained the destructive force of his mountain-sized versions. The control required was exquisite. Too much compression and the technique destabilized. Too little and it lacked power. By year 1500, Naruto could create Rasengans of any size, from microscopic to massive, all with perfect stability and control. Now, Kurama said, add nature transformation. This was what his father had failed to achieve. Adding elemental chakra to the Rasengan required maintaining the shape transformation, the sphere of spinning chakra, while simultaneously adding nature transformation, elemental properties. It required dividing one's focus in ways that most shinobi found impossible. But Naruto had 1500 years of practice in multitasking and chakra control. He started with his natural affinity, wind. The wind release, Rasengan took 50 years to perfect. Adding wind nature to the spinning sphere created a chakra saw effect, making the Rasengan not just a grinding sphere of power but a cutting vortex. It could slice through anything, the wind blades microscopic and devastating. Your father would have called this the Rasen Shuriken, Kurama said, watching Naruto's perfected wind Rasengan. But you can take it further. Naruto learned to manipulate the wind blades, to extend them, to control their sharpness and direction. He created variants. A Rasengan that fired wind blades outward like a shotgun, a Rasengan that maintained a cutting edge for extended periods, a Rasengan that could be thrown and would seek its target like a guided missile. Then he moved to the other elements. Lightning release. Rasengan took another 50 years. Lightning added piercing power, the electrical chakra concentrating the Rasengan's destructive force into a single point. Where the wind version scattered damage across a wide area, the lightning version punched through defenses with surgical precision. Fire release. Rasengan was next. This combined naturally with his wind affinity. Wind fed fire, making the combination even more destructive. The result was a Rasengan that burned with heat rivaling the sun's surface, incinerating anything it touched. Earth release. Rasengan added mass and weight, creating a sphere of gravitational force that crushed rather than cut or burned. It was slower than the other variants but devastatingly effective against fortifications. Water release. Rasengan was the most versatile, able to adapt its form and pressure. It could become a cutting water jet, a crushing wave, or a drilling vortex depending on Naruto's intent. By year 1650, Naruto could create Rasengans with any single nature transformation instantly. Now combine them, Kurama challenged. Creating Rasengans with multiple nature transformations required understanding how elements interacted. Wind and fire created explosions. Lightning and water created electric flooding. Earth and fire created lava. Naruto spent 50 years mastering dual nature Rasengans, learning every possible combination, understanding how different elements enhanced or interfered with each other, then triple nature Rasengans, then quadruple. And finally, at year 1700, he achieved what should have been impossible, a Rasengan containing all 5 chakra natures simultaneously. It was a sphere of prismatic energy, each element visible as distinct layers yet blending into a coherent whole. It contained the cutting power of wind, the piercing force of lightning, the burning heat of fire, the crushing weight of earth, and the adaptive versatility of water. When Naruto tested it against the mountain Kurama created, the technique didn't just destroy the mountain, it erased it. Cutting, piercing, burning, crushing, and drowning all at once. The mountain simply ceased to exist, transformed into its component atoms by the overwhelming assault. Your father created the Rasengan, Kurama said, genuine awe in his voice. You have created something beyond his wildest dreams. This technique, this is worthy of a god. Naruto looked at the sphere spinning in his palm, containing enough power to level a city, yet perfectly controlled. I'll call it the truth-seeking Rasengan, he said quietly. Because it contains all elements, all truths, and seeks to return everything to its fundamental nature. A fitting name, Kurama agreed. And a technique you must never use casually when you return to the real world. The destruction would be apocalyptic. Naruto nodded, dismissing the technique. I know. This is for when there's no other choice. For when everything depends on overwhelming power. Good, Kurama said. Because you'll need it. The threats you'll face are real, and some of them will require every bit of power you've developed. The final 3 centuries of the second millennium were dedicated to knowledge rather than power. You have physical strength beyond measure, Kurama said. Techniques that could level mountains, control that rivals the sage himself. But power without understanding is just destruction. You need to know the true history of this world, the real origins of chakra, the threats that exist in the shadows. You need to understand what you're fighting for, and what you're fighting against. For 300 years, Kurama shared his memories, not just recounting stories, but actually sharing, allowing Naruto to experience events through Kurama's eyes, to feel what the ancient fox had felt, to understand history not as a lesson but as lived experience. Naruto experienced the birth of the tailed beasts, created by Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of 6 paths. He felt what it was like to gain consciousness, to be given a name and purpose, to be treated as a being rather than a force of nature. He experienced the sage's teachings, learning about Ninshu, the predecessor to ninjutsu, meant to connect people through understanding rather than divide them through conflict. He saw the sage's sons, Indra and Asura. Indra, blessed with power and genius, believing strength came from individual excellence. Asura, lacking natural talent but compensated through hard work and cooperation, believing strength came from bonds with others. You are Asura's reincarnation, Kurama revealed. His chakra and will reborn in you. Just as Sasuke Uchiha is Indra's reincarnation. You two are destined to conflict and cooperate, repeating a cycle that has persisted for 1,000 years. Naruto experienced the wars that followed the sage's death, watching humanity twist chakra from a tool of connection into a weapon of destruction. He felt Kurama's growing hatred as humans began to hunt the tailed beasts, to seal them, to use them as weapons. He experienced being sealed in Mito Uzumaki, the first Hokage's wife. Felt the imprisonment, the loss of freedom, but also Mito's firm but fair treatment. He experienced the brief freedom between hosts, and then being sealed again in Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's mother. Felt her fierce determination, her kindness, her gradual friendship with Kurama despite their circumstances. He experienced the Nine Tails attack on Konoha, but from Kurama's perspective. The Sharingan's mind control, forcing him to attack against his will. The helplessness of being used as a weapon. The rage and grief when the mind control was broken but the damage was already done. And he experienced being sealed in Naruto himself, feeling Minato and Kushina's love for their son even as they died, their final wish that Naruto be seen as a hero rather than a monster. You understand now, Kurama said as the memories faded. Why I was so full of hatred when we first met. Why I wanted to destroy everything. I was used, imprisoned, treated as a monster for centuries. My hatred was not inherent, it was learned, cultivated by how humans treated me. But you changed that. You saw me as a being, a person, a friend. You gave me something I'd never had, genuine respect and affection. And that changed everything. Naruto wept openly, feeling the weight of Kurama's pain, understanding the depth of what their friendship meant. I'm sorry, he said. For everything humans did to you. For the pain, the imprisonment, the hatred. I can't change the past, but I swear, I'll make sure the future is different. For you, for all the tailed beasts. I know you will, Kurama said gently. That's why I chose you. That's why this partnership means everything to me. The remaining years focused on understanding the current threats. Kurama shared what he knew about the Akatsuki, an organization hunting tailed beasts, led by Nagato Uzumaki who possessed the Rinnegan, the legendary eyes of the Sage of Six Paths. He revealed the truth about Madara, actually Obito Uchiha, Kakashi's former teammate, who had survived the Third Shinobi War and been corrupted, now working to execute a plan called the Infinite Tsukuyomi. He explained the Infinite Tsukuyomi itself, a genjutsu cast on the entire world using the moon, meant to trap everyone in dreams while draining their chakra to revive Kagaya Otsutsuki, the first wielder of chakra and the progenitor of all shinobi. Kagaya is the true threat, Kurama explained. She is an Otsutsuki, a clan from beyond the stars that travels between worlds, draining planets of their energy. She betrayed her clan to keep Earth's chakra for herself, becoming the first being to wield it. If she returns, she will try to reclaim all chakra, turning every living being into white setsu, chakra-drained husks. It will be the end of life as you know it. Naruto absorbed this information, understanding the scope of what he would face when he returned to the real world. But you won't face it alone, Kurama reminded him. You have me. You have the power we've developed together. And you have your friends, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and countless others. Trust in them as you trust in me. As year 2000 approached, Naruto and Kurama stood together in their shared mindscape, looking out over the beautiful world they'd created together. 2,000 years, Naruto marveled. I've been training for 2,000 years. I've mastered all 5 elements, created techniques beyond anything the shinobi world has seen, achieved a fusion of sage mode and tailed beast power that shouldn't be possible. And you've maintained your sanity and sense of self, Kurama added. That's perhaps the greatest achievement. Most would have lost themselves in so much time. But you're still Naruto Uzumaki, still the boy who wants to be Hokage and protect his friends. Still me, Naruto agreed. Just more. Much more, Kurama said. But we're only at the 2,000-year mark. We have 8,000 years remaining. You've built a foundation beyond anything the world has seen. Now we'll build on it. We'll explore depths of power that have never been touched, create abilities that will make gods weep. But first, Kurama's eyes gleamed, you need to understand something crucial. Everything you've learned so far, the chakra natures, the Rasengan variants, the sage mode fusion, all of it is external power, techniques and abilities you wield. For the next millennium, you will learn internal power. You will master the mind, the soul, the very essence of what makes you who you are. You will learn genjutsu not as illusion, but as the manipulation of reality itself. You will learn to separate your soul from your body, to exist in multiple places at once, to transcend the limitations of physical existence. You will learn to become more than human. Naruto felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with trepidation. I'm ready, he said firmly. Whatever comes next, whatever I need to learn, I'll face it. We'll face it together. Together, Kurama agreed. Always together. And as the second millennium drew to a close, Naruto Uzumaki, wielder of godlike power, master of all elements, possessor of 2,000 years of experience compressed into a 13-year-old body, prepared for the next phase of his impossible journey. The foundation was complete. The true transcendence was about to begin.